Hello everyone, my name is Joshua and this is the 201st video on my video journal series. Today's date is Friday the 28th of August 2026. How's everyone been? I've been pretty good, thank you. And today I was in the city taking some photos and videos for my Sydney A Work in Progress archive, which is my video and photo archive of Sydney. And something I noticed when I went along George Street, Martin Place, Circular Quay, those pedestrian areas, is that, well, there was a lot of people in the city, but I saw a lot of people rushing to catch the next train, bus, tram, ferry. And obviously, people got places to be. A lot of people were heading home or doing some last minute grocery shopping. Um, but I often think, well, where are these people going that they're in such a big rush that they might, try to uh, you know, run in front of a tram or do something like try to like push their way through the crowd so they can like get to their bus in time. And obviously people don't have a whole lot of time. Everyone wants to get back home, I understand, but I never see the point in rushing through things in life. Even if it means I'll be there by uh, even if it means I'll be like at my intended destination a few minutes late. I'm like, well, if I made an attempt to get to this, destination early, but some sort of train cancellation or delay happens, but I'm like, well, I'm already going to be there late, so why not just, walk there and explain my situation? Um, you know, if I want to leave the city, like, sure, I want to get the next available train back home, but I'm like, well, I'll just, boot out the transport app and I'll see if I need to, like, power walk this distance or if I can just wait a few minutes for the next one. I feel like once you start rushing, you often forget things and you just exhaust yourself out for nothing. Then you get all sweaty and then you pretty much deplete your energy. And I guess like rushing to get back home, right, is a lot better than rushing to work because when you rush to work, um, you just feel exhausted. You feel all those like negative effects, but then you like, all right, well now I have to start off the day, but I really had a bad start off to the day. And even as someone who was employed, I remember finishing up uni and then having to rush to catch this train to work, and it was just a nightmare, because I finished a class. I remember this was on Thursday. I'll finish my Thursday class, and then I only had like a 1.5 hour gap between me finishing that class and me starting work, and I had to catch this very specific train. So I had to like literally run to Central Station, and I just hated it, because you end up getting all sweaty, and then you deplete all your energy, and then you're gonna clock into work. But that was a pretty tight schedule. Thankfully, I don't have to do that anymore. But you know, I never really see the point in I guess, you know, unnecessarily rushing towards things or rushing through things. I like to spread out my time. I'm sure many of you would like to do the same, where if, we, plan ahead wisely, we're like, all right, well, I don't have to run to catch this bus. I don't run to have to catch this tram, there's a service every 5 or so minutes, or if I leave a little bit early, I'll be able to walk there and still be a little bit early for the bus. But obviously rushing comes where we're not really planned. Where we just see something in front of us and we're like, all right, well, I need to get to this. And sometimes it can't be helped. Sometimes I wake up a little bit late in the morning, so when need to catch a bus, I have to, I'm guilty of this. I have to run to the bus stop and hopefully just hope that the bus hasn't left. But another thing is, I guess if we're talking outside of transport, I never see the point in just rushing through things generally in life. Rushing for assessments, rushing for a work shift, trying to rush through university. I know plenty of people who are doing those things. They're like, all right, well, I just want to get this done and over with. And sometimes it can't be helped, you know. We all have to do things that we don't like in life, but you know, the worst thing in my eyes is trying to rush through it, or just trying to skip ahead without doing the proper steps first. Because you know, you often just you know have your eyes set on the end goal, but not really a means to reach that end goal. So if we talk about that sort of like rushing, where you try to rush through your work, that's something I don't really agree with. You know, even if I'm doing something I'm disinterested in, I'm like, well, I'm gonna put in you know proper effort into this, you know, and I don't really think a whole lot about the end product. I just think about what can I do now, you know. I don't constantly think about the end of assignments. I think about, you know, the beef, like the sort of, you know, main work of assignments where you got to, figure out all these things and, you know, what your idea is going to be, what your project is going to be, how you will be able to accomplish this assignment or this project. Finishing that project or assignment will basically be the cherry on top. You know, you're like, all right, well, I can look back on my hard work, realize that, hey, I did a lot of problem solving, I did a lot of hard work. That's something I'm proud of. Um, but, you know, I don't really, I guess, see the point in, you know, just saying, all right, I need to get this done. You know, what's like the most optimal way of doing this? Like, what's the way that I can just like basically rush through this, do a last minute job. I don't like doing that. You know, I don't really like doing my assessments the night before. It's been a while since I've done it, but to me, it's all about what you can do now and more about the journey. You know, more about spreading out your work and not really rushing, but instead taking it in like sort of light chunks and pretty much it's the equivalent of like walking to your bus stop or walking to your train station. You know, you can run. You'll get there in a short amount of time, but you know you'll be extremely worn out by the end, and you might be able to just barely make it to the train station in time, or you could just walk at a constant pace, really take your time, and you'll still be there 5 minutes early at the train station. That's my analogy. When it comes to doing work, you can take it slowly but consistency, or you can take it really really fast, but you have to like do it in a very short amount of time. Um, and yet again, this is just all my, I guess, um, personal opinion. But that's why I don't really see the point in rushing through things because um, I always got like a plan, or I always know of a schedule when it comes to work, and I guess catching buses and trains and all that. Everything pretty much has like a schedule to it. If it doesn't, then I'll create a schedule. I'll create a schedule for all my assignments. I'll bring up the bus timetable. I will create a schedule for work, so then I know I need to be here by this time. Um, and I found that to be greatly beneficial in my life, and it's greatly reduced me having to rush, and run around, because once you start rushing and running around, you often forget things, and that's something I hate, just like throwing, I guess, any sort of like rationale out the window, you don't really have time to think, you just need to do thing right now, you need to, not think about, all right, is this the right bus I'm going to catch? You're like, all right, this is a bus, I need to get on it, at least when I rush, that's like my, brain essentially. And then, me rushing, I'm more likely to make mistakes and, not really, I guess, uh, perform efficiently, if you know what I mean. And yeah, I guess this, if you had to take a lesson from this, and make yourself a rule of thumb to always be 5 minutes early to every social event, or 5 minutes early to the bus or train or tram. Maybe not a flight, maybe with a flight you want to be like at least 2 hours early, but for things that I guess you do in your everyday life that you're often late to, give yourself a 5-minute rule of thumb. Be there 5 minutes early. And I guess, to always create a plan or schedule so then you don't end up having to rush to places and exhaust yourself out for nothing and getting all sweaty and, having a bad start off to the day. But yet again, sometimes it can't be helped. We all sleep in, um, you know, we all sometimes like miss deadlines or, sometimes the bus um, can be late, sometimes it's the bus that has to do all the rushing, and you're like, well, I only wish I got 5 more minutes of sleep instead of waiting at the bus stop for an extra 5 minutes. But at least you're at the bus stop, and at least you got there, and at least you can just, wait for the bus and not the bus having to wait for you, if you know what I mean. But yet again, the bus won't really wait for you. It would wait there, and then it's like, all right, it is 3:30. The bus is going to leave the stop, and you missed the bus. That's happened to me plenty of times. It's all coming back to me now, um, and yeah, it sucks. Excuse me. It sucks when you miss the bus. It sucks when you have to like run around and do things. Sometimes it really can't be helped. But yeah, those are like, I guess, my sort of strategies or things I recommend. Scheduling, uh, being at places 5 minutes early, um, and like I said, you don't really need to rush through things in life. I always say focus on the present. Don't always, I guess, focus on what the end goal is going to be, but rather, um, you know, what can I do now? You know, um, what can I sort of get from this, if you know what I mean? Like, how can I demonstrate my knowledge, and how can I really make this project or assessment the best it can be, or my work, this just applies to anything in life. It can apply to assessments, it can apply to your own job. Sometimes, when I used to work, I just used to, sit behind a counter and just like, say, oh, I really wish it was 9 o'clock right now. I just kept on thinking, 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I can clock off. But I eventually shifted my focus towards not really rushing to get really rushing time to get to 9 o'clock, but rather focusing. All right, what can I do now? What can I do now to distract myself from the end goal and just focus on the present? And I found that time went by a lot quicker when I did that. And I feel like, yet again, life is, not really something that you constantly think about the end of, but rather, what you can think about in the present, in the moment. Um, you know, like, to be fair, what's really the point in rushing through life? I mean, rushing through university, I mean, if you were to, you'll probably get into a full time job quicker. And then the quicker you get into a full time job, the quicker you could start working. The quicker you could start working, the quicker you can save up for your retirement. And the quicker you can save up for your retirement and your house and your car and all that, the quicker you can retire and have a good life. But then, what's the point in that? You're already 60 years old, you're retired, and then you wish you can be young again. Um, and obviously, there are some stages in life, I guess, we want to like, jump ahead. But, within my own eyes, and yet again, my own opinion, um, rushing through things in life is just, rushing further and further to the point you will get very old, but you can't really do all the things you wanted, or you can't do all the things you wanted to do when you were younger. And then you sit in, your chair, and you're like, well, I only wish I didn't rush through things, or I wish I could do this, wish I could do that. I wish I could have traveled a lot when I was younger. And to me, yet again, that's just how I personally see it. So I'm like, all right, what can I do now since I'm 20 years old? And, I know that in 40, 50, or even 60 years' time, that I won't be able to do all the things I could do now. So yeah, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna rush through things in life. I'm not gonna constantly think about the end goal of retirement or buying a house, or just looking back on things as an old man. I just think of the present, obviously, it's good to have, I guess, an end goal in mind. But I feel if that just becomes the sole sort of thing that you focus upon, you really negate on what you can do now in the present. And yeah, that's like, I know this is kind of a sort of deep thought to have, but it's what I personally think. When it comes to um, focusing upon the present, not really rushing things, but rather um, taking the time and really taking enjoyment and, I guess, value from things, if that makes sense. And I guess to really end off this video, one of my, I guess, just like mottos in life is don't try and rush through it. I never see the point in trying to rush through things. Take pride and, I guess, you know, time and effort in the things that you do. And, if you're rushing to catch your train or bus, don't, risk your life in trying to do so. You know, maybe power walk to the bus stop or train station, all that, but don't start like shoving through crowds or risking yourself where you can like easily slip over and fracture your knee and all that, or to the point where you're just like really really sweaty and you're just like trying to like recuperate, just trying to like get like you know oxygen flowing through your lungs. Where you're just really like panting. Um, you know, um, just rest assured that the next service, I guess, is always going to come. Um, or, just try and, I guess, bust out a schedule and just see, is it really worth me like running to this service when I could just wait 5 minutes for the next one? Or when's the next service going to be? Um, and I guess, always show up, I guess, 5 minutes early for the bus, 5 minutes early for work, even. Um, Maybe not, yet again, catching a flight. There's always going to be, you know, variations in how early you should be at certain events, but even just being a few minutes early is always better than, I guess, being a few minutes late. And I guess being early just comes with scheduling or um, lifestyle habits and routines. And I personally found that, one of the best things is just like waking up early in the morning, at least for me, once you got like a good night's rest. I used to hate it when I went to school, when I went to primary and high school, waking up early in the morning. But now I like it, being in uni, surprisingly. Um, so, yeah, just, I guess, not really rushing through the morning much these days, at least for me, but rather I take advantage of the morning, take advantage of all that extra time I could use in the morning towards work, and then I save that time in the afternoon for me to do what I do. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Enjoy life as, I guess, it goes. Have like an end goal in mind, like I don't know, buying a house in today's economy, and maybe that's not feasible enough. Or maybe having like goals in your life that you want to achieve, but don't try, I guess, like rush through these goals. Enjoy uh, whichever stage in life you are in right now, because once you've finished that stage, you can't really go back to it. And yeah, just take you know find value in what you do and put pride and effort in what you do, and I guess that in of itself will be better than the cherry on top. The cherry on top's just um, it's just one final send off to your work or project. Meanwhile, the main sort of what you call it. If I had to use an analogy, it would be like a Big Mac burger. The cherry on top will be the bun on top. Holds everything together. Um, both buns, that is. But the main sort of meat, it's going to be that meat patty. It's going to be the lettuce, the tomato, the sauce that they use. That's where you want to put all, I guess, your resources into. And I know I've been talking on way too much. I've been talking way too much when I just start using analogy of Big Macs. But yeah, I that's why I don't really see the point in, I guess, trying to rush through things, um, or just trying to constantly focus upon the end goal when I could be focusing upon the present and what I can do now. You know. But yet again, no, that's all my opinion at the end of the day. But I'd like to hear what is your I guess ethos. Are you someone that likes to be at places early, or are you just like someone who just does things as they come? Like, oh, I got something at this time, I'll just be there. Uh, you know, I know a lot of people like that. And I guess for like informal social events, it's okay. But I guess if you're going to a job interview, you want to be there at least a few minutes early. um, but yeah, I'd just like to hear, I guess, what your opinions are. Um, I guess, do you like manually calculate in your head? All right, if I run fast enough, I'll be able to catch this bus. Or you're like, whatever, it's down the street, but there's no way I can catch it. I'll just wait, 20 or 30 minutes for the next one. Sometimes I'm that person, but other times, I guess, depending on the situation, I just like trying to run for my life, just trying to run, to catch that bus. But anyway, that's enough of me talking. And yeah, if you stay to the end, thank you. But apart from that, that's enough. And I guess I'll catch you all next time. Bye, see you, take care. Catch you all tomorrow.